Welcome to Lecture 2.1, where we unlock one of the most powerful and ancient brain exercises known, the Memory Palace Method. This method is not just about rote memorization. It's about transforming dry, abstract data into vibrant, unforgettable journeys within your mind. This technique, also known as the method of Loci, is the ultimate cognitive calisthenic for your memory centers. It directly strengthens the relationship between your spatial and episodic memory systems, which is the key to superior recall. We're going to break down this powerful technique so you can immediately integrate it into your 15 minutes a day to dramatically sharpen your brain's ability to retain complex information. Let's face a fundamental problem. Rote memorization fails us, especially when we need information most, like during a presentation or an exam. The feeling of the information being right there but inaccessible is frustrating. This is because rote learning relies heavily on the working memory, which is fragile and has a low capacity. The why behind the why is deeply evolutionary. Our brains are fundamentally wired for spatial memory. For our ancient ancestors, remembering the location of food or danger was far more critical than remembering a list of numbers. Therefore, information that is tied to a place is deemed more important and is automatically routed to the robust, long-term memory centers. The myth is that you must just try harder to repeat facts. The truth is, you must change the format of the facts. We need to stop forcing the brain to do something it hates and start feeding it the concrete, physical, visual context it craves. The memory palace, or the method of Loci, is a technique dating back to ancient Greece. It's defined as a memory aid where items to be recalled are associated with specific sequential locations along a familiar route. This palace can be your childhood home, your daily commute, or even your local grocery store, any place you know intimately. Our Mythbuster is important. This method does not instantly give you a perfect memory. Instead, it provides a perfect retrieval system. Why is this distinction so crucial? Because the value isn't in the palace itself. It's in the effortful, creative process of forging the vivid, often bizarre, link between the data point and the specific location. The brain strengthening comes from the novelty of creating these imaginative scenarios. If you use the palace without this creative linking, it's just an empty house. The real exercise is in making your information so visually loud, so bizarre, that your brain cannot possibly ignore it. Learning and using the memory palace grants you three major superpowers for your brain. First, instant sequential recall. By placing data along a distinct route, you create a breadcrumb trail. You don't have to search randomly, you just walk the route mentally. Why is this a superpower? Because it eliminates the anxiety of blanking under pressure. The sequential nature means if you recall the third point, you automatically know the fourth point is coming next on your journey. Second, reduced cognitive load. Rote learning constantly exhausts your working memory. When you offload the list onto a palace, you free up your working memory for higher-level thinking, analysis, and creativity. This is the why behind the why. Your brain uses less energy to retrieve spatial information than abstract information. Third, you gain context-dependent resilience. Information anchored to a physical, visual location is far less vulnerable to interference from stress or distraction. Like an anchor in a storm, the spatial context keeps the memory stable when your mind is racing. The foundational technique for building your first palace is the PAL method: path, anchor, link. This simple three-step process makes the ancient method immediately actionable. Step 1 is path. Choose a physical route you know intimately and identify 10 to 15 distinct, unmoving anchors along that route. For example, your front door, a light switch, the coat rack, and so on. Step 2 is anchor. Assign a single data point to each of your physical anchors. The light switch will hold your first bullet point. The coat rack holds your second, and so on. Step 3, and the most crucial step, is link. This is the how within the how. You must create a bizarre, vivid, and interactive image that links the data point directly to the physical anchor. It must be active, absurd, and multisensory. For example, if you need to remember the Punic Wars on the code rack, don't just see the words. Picture hundreds of tiny Roman and Carthaginian soldiers violently fighting over the coat hangers, making a massive, clattering noise. The effort of creating that bizarre mental film strip is the true brain exercise, forcing the neural networks into high gear. Let's immediately apply the first step of the POW method. Your first integrated drill is establishing the path and anchors of your very first memory palace, right here in the room you're in. Your task is to identify 10 distinct, unmoving, permanent objects along a clear, sequential path that you can mentally walk. It must always start and end in the same place. Label these objects 1 through 10. For instance, 1 is the doorknob, 2 is the corner of the rug, 3 is the edge of the television. This creates the reliable scaffold for your memory. Remember, the path must be absolutely reliable. Pause the video and try it now. We'll use this map in the next drill. If you paused to think hard about selecting those 10 locations, you were doing the exercise correctly. The difficulty lies in making them distinct and permanent. The value of this consistent path is that it harnesses your episodic memory, the system that records events in a chronological sequence. When you mentally walk the palace, you are reliving a small, controlled event. Why does this consistency matter? Because when you are stressed, your working memory fails, but your episodic memory, which is deep, spatial, and emotional, remains resilient. Our contrast here is important. A poor path uses vague locations like the wall or the floor. A well-done path uses specific, even tactile locations, like the coroner scuff mark on the baseboard or the slight crack in the window pane. The more specific your anchors are, the more vividly you can place the bizarre memory image on them, enhancing the retrieval process dramatically. Now we move to the most stimulating part of the exercise, creating the link. Use the first 8 anchors you identified in your path. Your goal is to practice making the memory image bizarre and interactive. Here is an 8-item to-do list. 1. Call the bank. 2. Buy milk. 3. Read chapter 5. 4. Email the client. 5. Fix the shelf. 6. Start the report. 7. Water the plants. 8. Charge the laptop. For each of your first 8 physical anchors, you must create a vivid, silly, active image linking the task to the anchor. For anchor 1, the doorknob, if the task is call the bank, picture the doorknob having a tiny mouth and yelling into a massive old-fashioned telephone receiver. Make it move, make it loud. This is your high-resistance brain exercise. Pause the video and try it now. You have 5 minutes to create these 8 vivid links. The friction you felt in the spatial memory grid mapping drill is a sign of deep cognitive work. The difficulty is not in remembering the 4 objects, but in holding that mental image steady while simultaneously performing the spatial transformation, calculating the diagonal opposite. This drill directly challenges both your hippocampus, the brain's key region for spatial memory, and the parietal lobe, essential for spatial reasoning. Why is this a powerful sharpening tool? Because spatial reasoning is fundamental to problem solving, abstract thinking, and even navigating complex social situations. Think of it as the cognitive equivalent of reading a map upside down and in a mirror simultaneously. The how within the how for refinement is that experts often push this further by mentally rotating the grid in 3D before making the mark. By forcing your brain to engage these nonverbal systems, you achieve a well-rounded form of cognitive calisthenics, ensuring both hemispheres get their required workout. It is time to test the effectiveness of your memory palace. This recall step is the final part of the brain exercise. Your task is to mentally walk your path from anchor 1 to anchor 8 and retrieve the to-do list items we encoded. Do not look at your paper. Pause the video now and walk your palace, retrieving all 8 items. Welcome back. The 8 items were 1. Call the bank. 2. Buy milk. 3. Read chapter 5. 4. Email the client. 5. Fix the shelf. 6. Start the report. 7. Water the plants. 8. Charge the laptop. Now, let's test your knowledge retention. The foundational myth we busted about the memory palace is that it gives you a perfect memory, when in fact it gives you a perfect retrieval system. The PAL acronym stands for Path, Anchor, Link. And its most crucial, brain-sharpening step is the link, because it requires the most creative, high-resistance effort. Pause the video and recall those 3 answers one last time. Excellent! You have successfully mastered the foundation of the memory palace method. The grand conclusion of this lecture is that memory is a creative act, not a passive storage vault. You now have the full PAL method to immediately transform your memory. Remember, the true brain exercise is the link, the creative, high-effort visualization. To integrate this into your 15 minutes a day, commit just 5 minutes daily to using your memory palace to encode a grocery list, a set of meeting notes, or key facts from a book. This consistent, high-effort encoding will sharpen your brain faster than any passive activity.